My name is Seán Graham and I'm here to talk about our experience in St Francis Hospice Blanchardstown. My dad's name was Brendan Graham. He was local to Blanchardstown, lived in Ashtown, not too far away from here, just beside the Phoenix Park. And unfortunately, Dad was diagnosed with cancer in March 2021. Dad had been in St James's Hospital for many of the months before he died, and he used to always turn around and say that the staff were overrun and they just were too busy. Whereas when he came to St Francis Hospice, he just couldn't believe the difference in the two environments. The staff had nothing but time for him. They had the time to sit down and chat to him and discuss things with him, talk about his life, talk about things that happened to him, talk about his family. So that just didn't happen in the hospital environment. So it was something Dad loved to do. He loved to speak to people, and this got on so well with all the staff and had no bad word to say about any of them. When Dad was admitted to the hospice, initially there was a huge sense of guilt. Within 24 hours, Dad turned around and said, "You couldn't have found me a better place. This place is 5-star." And any guilt was just completely taken off our shoulders. We knew we'd found the right place. Dad was happy. We were happy. It was brilliant. So when I first heard about the hospice, our initial reaction was, this is end-of-life care. But it isn't just end-of-life care, it's also symptom management for patients, which is something that we weren't aware of. But our experience of the hospice was just unbelievable. The facilities here, the garden, the cafeteria, it was just brilliant. I was able to bring Dad out to the garden, sit him down, have chats. There's a lovely walk around the garden, around the hospice, so I was able to bring Dad out in the wheelchair. But the great thing about the hospice was that the nurse who was looking after him at the time said, "Brendan, you do whatever you want to do." And said, "If you want to have a glass of wine with your dinner, you have a glass of wine with your dinner." I said, "Really, can I?" I said, "Absolutely." Every day then he used to have a glass of wine with his dinner and he'd have a Bailey's coffee afterwards. So it was just lovely to be able to do that. The underlying memory I will have of the hospice was the love, dignity and respect that Dad was given. During his time here, nothing was too much. There was no detail overlooked. Dad was happy, and it was a tremendous experience in the saddest of circumstances. A little story that I'll tell is that Miriam, one of the nurses, I was walking out the door and she turned around and said, "Hey, you, come back here a minute." And I said, "What?" I said, "Come here, you, I want to have a chat with you." And so, "What about?" I said, "Well, I was in with your dad last night and I was giving out to him." I said, "Well, why were you giving out to him?" And I said, "Well, he was at your sister to go home and get something to eat and said, 'Go on, leave me alone, I'll be grand, leave me alone and go get something to eat for yourself.'" And I turned around and I was giving out to him and said, "You'd never speak to Seán like that." And he started smiling. And she said, "I bet beneath it all, she's your little princess." And I said, "Yes, she is my little princess, but Seán is my rock. The things that Seán has done for me over the last 6 months, I never anticipated or expected." And she finished it by saying, "Just in case he never gets to tell you that himself." Dad being of a vintage, where they didn't turn around and give you plaudits on the back, or, he was 87 when he died. It was sort of a once removed from that kind. But it's something that stuck with me and I just thought it was lovely to hear. And I know how much he appreciated me and everything I'd done in the last 6 months.